Well, I'm Kevin Stevenson. I'm Chairman of the Australian Accounting Standards Board. The board is an agency in the Treasury portfolio of the Commonwealth. It's established in a manner that gives a good deal of independence to the board itself in terms of the setting of standards within the constraints of an appropriate due process. And it sets standards that apply to general purpose financial reports of all sorts of reporting entities, whether they are private sector or public sector. When I say all sorts of entities, I'd have to emphasise that is those entities that are reporting entities, that is entities for which there might be a range of users who are dependent upon the preparation and presentation of general purpose financial statements. It does not set standards for micro entities or private concerns that have no outside interests. Occasionally I do hear people complaining about accounting standards being prepared other than for them, that they're too complex for their environment, and similar sorts of issues. On occasions those comments are valid, because we do fairly regularly see other regulators usually trying to do the right thing, but nevertheless extending the responsibilities of entities to report under accounting standards, when in fact those standards were never designed for the environments in which they're being invoked. A common strategy that we see is a regulator will, when its act is being established, to incorporate accounting and auditing provisions, and realising quite often that that's not their forte, they will default to the same sorts of provisions as exist within the corporations law. And in doing so, what they do is effectively require the regulated parties to comply with our accounting standards. We see examples like travel agents with trust funds being required to do general purpose financial statements, when we would not normally have expected that level of entity to be captured. So the complexity issue is partly a function of what we do in accounting standards. There's no getting away from the fact that businesses are complex and financial reporting does involve some complex matters, but sometimes it's also a function of a wrong invoking of accounting standards. Usually the blame for that comes back to we as standard setters, even though we really have little province over that. We do regularly interchange with regulators as they come into being or as their legislation gets revised, to try and make sure that their expectations are not too elevated.